So a lot of talk behind the scenes about Georgia and their first week of practice, and I want to make sure y'all got a chance to see some of this, hear some of this, and I'm going to go over it with you right now. So we talked to a lot of different people, and there's no certainty that all of them know exactly what they're talking about. We purposely leave things out for that reason at times, but when you get a kind of consensus around things, that's the sort of stuff that we make sure that our members and subscribers are aware about. I'm going to let y'all in on a few of those right now. I don't have the time to get through all of them. I'm including a link below to this story that's going to tell you. You can just click it and take it from there. It's got more than I'm going to share right now because of time. But there was a lot of discussion over the weekend about how JT Daniels played in the scrimmage, and the people that we talked to who were there said it wasn't great, but over time we found out why, which is that he was missing a lot of people. He was one of six projected, if you want to call it that, starters who played on the offensive side of the ball, and it really missing five guys who would be starters, three of whom are ball catchers. That's a real issue. And missing your center. That's a problem. I said three, really four ball catchers, because Eric Gilbert, John Fitzpatrick, Jermaine Burton, and Kyrus Jackson all did not participate in the scrimmage over the weekend. I am going to read you what folks said about JT Daniels. First person, well, there's only a couple of things here on JT because most of this focused on the other folks. JT didn't have the type of scrimmage I think that would wow anyone. Kirby said he's not playing with a full deck. He does not have all of the weapons out there. JT understands that. He understands that we are going through the process of making good decisions. I am really pleased with where JT is with his leadership and commanding the offense. I think he would admit that he could have had a better day than he did today, and he knows that. It's not all on him. That's on everybody, including me, the offensive staff, and all the guys to keep improving. But again, when we first started talking to people after the scrimmage, it did not sound like a good scrimmage, okay, at all. But as I've said on here a lot, I think people really cheer for the offense and these things, even if people who are going have, a background in defense or even a background in football and they can understand what good football is. People always want to see points. And so they assume that because something hasn't gone well for the offense, that means that it won't go well, or they just want to see points. I would, again, make sure that you're checking in on the story below so that you can see everything that was said about Carson and Stetson and Brock Vandagriff. I do kind of want to talk about Emerius Mims, who's a guy that a lot of people are hopeful will step up. This is something that Matt DeBerry and I talked about just on a phone call. If Emerius Mims can be your left tackle, and it is asking a lot for a true freshman to be your left tackle. I'm the only person that comes to mind in the last few decades that did that was Trenton Sturdivant in 2007. So it can certainly be done. But there were some people who there were mixed reviews on Mims. Some people really liked him a lot, and here's one of them that said Emerius Mims was dominant, a few mental errors, but he stuck out with some nice blocks during pulls. And another person was not as certain that Emerius would be an immediate dominant player. This was their view of the world. I think Mims still has work to do. Yeah, he's a first rounder, might be a top 5 pick, but he's not ready quite yet. So when you talk with a lot of different people, excuse me, and this is why I would encourage you to read the story. You get a feel for, a lot of times people have access to grind and stuff like that, but I think generally speaking, you get a good understanding of sort of where things are as it relates to the positions that you're asking about. But the biggest thing that we took away from Saturday was really how good the defense was. And most people didn't mention guys like Jordan Davis. or Devontae Wyatt. They were very happy, and this was not exclusive to Kirby Smart, but I'm going to read what Kirby said about Smile Munden and Jamin Dumas-Johnson, who I think is going to get he's going to be JDJ here soon by a lot of people. But those two guys made a lot of plays. From what we understand, we're getting on to a few days, and we've talked to a lot of different people about this now. I think there was basically one turnover in this game. I think that's a very good sign if you're Georgia. But there was one turnover in this game, and it was Dumas-Johnson that got it. Here's what Kirby had to say. I thought Jamin Dumas-Johnson made a great play on a pick, and I'm going to stop talking about what Kirby said. The pick was in the stadium against Carson Beck. It was a ball that was going over, or was supposed to go over Dumas-Johnson's head, but the player made a great play and picked it off. Kirby again, I thought Jamin Dumas-Johnson made a great play. He flashed in camp, he has flashed in camp. This kid did not play his senior season. They canceled football and he didn't get to play. I keep watching him. I'm like, man, who is number 10? Man, who is that? He flashes and makes play. Makes plays. He and Smile Munden are just so hardworking and tough and strike people. I feel like we have real good young players at linebackers. They're going to be really good players. And this defense has really good linebackers right now. But those guys are maybe more physically ideal, I guess you could say, compared to Nakobe Dean, who is short, but a really good player. So in the rigors of this league, these two guys are as physically ready to go as a lot of people. Do I think they'll start? No, probably not, because you've got older guys who've been around the block who are, in terms of physicality, where they need to be. They've already dealt with a season or 2 or 3 of football, and that's one thing that we picked up really a lot, which is this next quote. And again, I want to make sure you're going to want to read the story because I can't rattle off every single quote. But this was an important one here too, from someone talking about the younger players at Georgia. And the quote is, "The playbook is kicking their ass right now more than anything." So this really is about getting into the right situation with these players. They are not going to know the playbook. A lot of these guys the bulk of this class came in early, but it's still a lot to get. Listen, I'm just speaking from my own personal experience, and basketball doesn't have as many plays as football because football has so many different variables. But I was having a hard time a few months into my freshman year. I mean, I very specifically remember in December having a hard time remembering what to do. I have a master's degree from Georgia. I'm not stupid at all. And so for me being overwhelmed, everybody that's going to play football at Georgia ain't going to go get a master's degree from the number 4 program in the country at Georgia like I did. I'm not talking about how great I am. I'm just giving you a reference point that it's tough at the beginning to know what's going on. And that's just in basketball. In football, it's a whole other mess because there's so many different plays and you're seeing that now. Now, concepts, probably those are coming in better. But plays, it's a lot. It's a lot for these guys. And there are a lot of young guys that are going to play this season. I'm just looking at the board here. I do not think Brock Vandergriff will play. I think that is asking a lot of Brock Vandergriff. But A.D. Mitchell is going to play. It is very possible that Bowers could play. Mims is going to play. Whether he will start or not, I don't know. You've got Munden and Dumas-Johnson. I think Chaz Chambliss is going to play. I don't know how much he'll play. And then in the back, I mean, it's all, if you're good, guys like Daniel and Green, they could play. That's a lot of guys that could play. I'm not saying you're going to sit there and depend on those guys, but they certainly could play. And so the learning curve is the biggest thing. And I just remember as a freshman in college, it's a lot. You're there for the first time and you're trying to figure out what's going on. How do I do laundry? Whatever. And all the plays, it is really tough to remember every single thing, whether it was for us, Wisconsin, or Hoot Owl, or Fist, or whatever these terms were that we used. And then in football, the nomenclature is even rougher. So because you've got bandit and jack and who's the Mike, and that's just defensive terms. So it's a lot. I would encourage you to make sure to read every single thing we've written. I didn't even skim the surface. Click on the story now. We'll see you over on Dog Post.